Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for being here. I'm sorry we had that break that took us away for such a while. It's been said, and I think as we've, hearing Mr. Netanyahu's speech today and hearing your comments, that the challenges in the Middle East are like at least a three-dimensional chess game, and I think actually there are probably even more layers to that. And I think the fact that we have been given the opportunity to consider an AUMF is very important. It allows the Congress to weigh in on and think through the implications of what we're doing and how best to achieve success. But again, given that it is so multidimensional, it's actually rather hard to grapple with. I think we're all struggling with that. And I think I just happened to read in the paper today that Iran is actually playing a significant role in Tikrit, that their forces are there, helping push back on ISIL. And I think that highlights the complexity of the region. While we're trying to negotiate an agreement on their nuclear weaponization, at the same time, we're taking advantage of their assistance. And I'm curious, General Austin, how you think this through.
Well, it certainly is a complex situation, ma'am. Thanks. Obviously, we are focused on providing support to the country, the government of Iraq, in its efforts to counter ISIL. And this is an Iraqi effort. The Iraqis have to do this. We will enable their efforts with our air power, with our advice and assistance in any way we can. But at the end of the day, they have to be able to do this. And certainly, there are areas in the eastern part of the country that they have, leading up to this point, that they have gained assistance from their neighbor with, and the popular mobilization forces that are there working. So if you look at the areas in the eastern part of the country, Jalula, Konakan, they've worked together in those areas, and then leading up to this, they've done a number of things to get to this point. So in terms of sorting this out, again, our focus is on the government of Iraq and working with the government of Iraq to provide assistance to them to counter ISIL.
So in essence, you defer to their relationships with Iran in that instance. And then how do you see that complicates the next steps, and that is the accommodation between the Shia and the Sunni, so that going forward the government is representative of the country and we don't backtrack into the situation we're in today?
I think it's absolutely key that they make sure that they have provisions in place to accommodate the Sunnis and the Kurds. I think that lack of inclusion is what got us to this point, and I think the only way that we can ensure that we don't go back there is if we have the right steps taken by the government. So pressure needs to remain on the government to ensure that they do the right things.
Another question. I think that's the other challenge of ISIS in my mind is that it's a little bit like whack-a-mole. You deal with it in one part of Iraq or Syria, and then, as you were saying in your testimony, now we're having to contend with it in North Africa. How do you think through the preparing our military response to those possibilities without always being able, or unless you have adequate intelligence, to assess where the next challenge is? It seems to me we run the risk of stretching ourselves very, very thin.
This is going to have to be an international effort going forward, and we're going to have to count on our strategic intelligence to lead that international effort as we go forward. There are certain things that we know about ISIL. We know that it looks to exploit sectarian tensions. We know that it wants to be a caliphate, so it looks to control large swaths of territory, and it must govern that territory. But it's also a big business, and it requires enormous resources. So as you look around the globe, I mean, it's more likely to go to those places that has ungoverned spaces, and also places where it can acquire resources to support this incredible effort. And I think if you can reduce those possibilities, you have a much better chance of staying ahead of this. But there's a greater thing that I think feeds all of this, and that is the narrative, the ideology that supports this, that feeds this, and I think there's got to be some things that are done to counter that ideology as well.
Thank you, General.
Mr. Franks.